Spain has showed this week that it is the front line of Europe's battle against fiscal failure. And so far, it's proved determination and the tools to drive back the debt crisis. It's moved to avert a commercial credit crunch as well as trim its national spending. With the bad loans looming, the government seized control of one lender and is forcing 4 more of them to merge. Well, now the country has ratified its deepest cutbacks in 30 years, albeit by the narrowest of margins, just one single vote in Parliament. Well, our economics editor David Tweed is in Madrid. David, it's not just Spain's economic health that's at stake, it's also the survival of the Prime Minister, and that, going forward, could have big repercussions.
And that's all people are talking about here in Madrid at the moment, Andrea. I got here at the Puerta del Sol. It's in the heart of Madrid. And when I got here at 6:30 this morning, I ran into a whole lot of Spanish youngsters who are all coming out of the clubs, which is very Spanish, of course. But what surprised me was that they wanted to talk to me about the political situation and yesterday's extremely narrow vote, which really shows that the Prime Minister is in a very weakened position at a time when he's got a lot of hurdles to cross, not least how to fix the savings banks.
David, let's look at what else they have to do, because although this vote got through at the narrowest of margins, there's much more legislation to be passed, isn't there?
Well, that's right. You know, I mean, I just mentioned the savings banks. These are actually the mutually owned savings banks, which have been highly politically influenced. And what happened with them is that during the property boom, a lot of them got involved in the sort of property deals that the normal commercial banks wouldn't touch. They're laden now with bad debts. The IMF says they absolutely need to fix these up. There are 2 other things that need to be fixed as well: labour market reform and then the pensions. But let's just talk first of all about what the savings banks need to do.
A tolling bell. It might well be tolling for Spain's teetering savings banks, the cajas. 2 have been seized by the Bank of Spain, their management thrown out. Under their unusual structure, with no shareholders and strong political influence on their boards, the cajas fueled the property bubble whose crash sent Spain into its worst recession in 60 years. During the past decade, lending by the 45 cajas surged 6 times and represents more than half of all Spanish bank property loans. Now the value of those loans has plummeted, leaving many close to insolvency. The government has set up a rescue fund that may provide as much as 99 billion euros in financing, which, if taken up, will add to the government's debt problems. The IMF says much-needed consolidation in the industry is taking too long. 23 of the cajas are in talks to merge, and this week 4 announced plans to create a super bank with assets of 135 billion euros. The merged group may now apply to the Government Rescue Fund for as much as 2 billion euros of financing.
One of the problems with this merger, as it stands in its current form, is that under the plan, the banks intend to hold on to their corporate identities as well as maintaining their branch networks, which, given that unemployment here in Spain is running at something like 20%, is politically completely unviable, especially the idea of cutting jobs right now.
Dara Quinn has been evaluating the mergers.
The less effective the mergers are, the weaker those institutions will be over the coming years. The outlook for Spain generically is one of, at best, weak growth. And certainly the private sector, in terms of leverage, in terms of capacity to absorb new credit, is very limited. So in that context, if you're not a more lean, commercially operating bank, it will be more difficult for you to generate profits versus your peers.
The banks have got until June 30 to come up with plans to merge. Otherwise, the chances of getting funding from the Emergency Rescue Fund may close, leading to more bells tolling for Spain's cajas.
Now, clearly the restructuring of the cajas is gaining momentum. The important thing is that the restructuring is done correctly. Next on the agenda, Andrea, Monday, we're expecting the Prime Minister to put forward his proposals for deregulating the labour market, something that's going to be very difficult, and he might actually face a general strike protesting that particular matter. Very hard, given the fact that we saw from yesterday's vote he's in a weakened position.